All right, can you guys hear me? Okay. All right, so my name is Matt. I'm co-founder of Nucleo, and this is a clickbait title to get people somewhat engaged, at least to start. Because I assume at this point everyone does want privacy, and this feels a little far-fetched. So what do I mean whenever I say no one wants privacy yet? First, quick background on why I'm talking here. Nucleo is a multi-sig, but make it private. What does that mean? Well, we started in November of 2021, solved a simple problem, actually spun out of a hackathon, tried making a joke yesterday saying, like, long-time listener, first-time caller here, because it was actually a hackathon from November to February at ETH Denver that finalized, all right, we need to do private multi-sigs to solve the Constitution DAO problem. So what does that really mean? It means that we found its turtles all the way down. We added a zero-knowledge proof circuit onto fundraising protocols like Juicebox at first, and then we realized, hey, we don't have account balance level privacy. That took us to some of the ZKP privacy protocols like Aztec and Aleo, realizing that, okay, if we have ZKPs on fundraising circuits down to account balance level privacy on these privacy protocols, then maybe we could do something interesting. So we're building with the leaders in ZKP privacy space, like Aleo, Aztec, and Espresso as some of the first grant-funded groups to help build infrastructure on them. Over the course of all of 2022, we worked with individuals, DAOs, organizations, and more. And we found a lot of very mixed feelings on privacy. This is our first event that we had at the DAOist in Amsterdam, looking at privacy versus transparency, just having a conversation. And we found that a lot of DAOs actually didn't want privacy. So whenever I joke that no one wants privacy yet, there was a lot of really good points around why DAOs in an open, transparent nature is really good, and why a lot of people really want to be able to see where every bit of the funds are flowing in a permissionless, open nature. We even got people saying hey, but maybe privacy is more nuanced and it could really help improve our governance so that you don't have people targeting specific high voting power users. That could be a good place for privacy. We got people saying straight up, is there demand for this of the DAOs here? Maybe not much. Then we got people that are very adamantly for privacy. So we built private multisigs, private DeFi, private fundraising, and more over the course of 2022. And we built it for individuals to use, for DAOs to use, for organizations to use, and more. What types of things did we build? Well, let me show you through some private fundraisers that we did at the end of last year that hopefully we can actually show people that may not have heard of it. There was some dramatic events going on at the end of last year, so you may have missed it. We did a couple private fundraisers. If anyone is based in New York and in the crypto scene, they're probably familiar with Empire DAO, and they're probably familiar that Empire DAO is no longer in the same building that they were. We actually helped try to launch a fundraise for them using a private public fundraise because they had a very clear use case of not wanting their entire DAO treasury public so they could negotiate with their real estate landlord and not be kind of jacked up of all the money they have in their bank account. So a little quick setup on how we had this. We had a public donation option or a private donation option, and just let users choose. We just thought it'd be interesting to see which way users would go if we gave them an option of both. And after they donated, they were able to either get public NFTs through the public contribution or private NFTs, in which we used and partnered with Sysmo to try to break links between some connections there. Yeah. So where the private, public contributions went to a Juicebox treasury, and you can have that be a Gnosis safe. On the private side, it actually went to a private multisig on Aztec network. This is a quick look at what it kind of looks like, and the fun thing about this is account balance level privacy for a multisig, so that no one could actually know, including the Constitution DAO members that actually contributed. It's kind of a weird paradigm to be in a DAO and not know where your money went after it contributed. You just have a proof that shows that it went to the DAO's multisig, but how can you show your other DAO members? Well, we found that we had to build an audit view. So we have auditors here, and if the DAO wanted to verify that the money had gone in, they could actually use an audit key and see and verify for themselves that the encrypted values inside the multisig actually were their donations. What else was that audit key used for? Well, in this use case, this was actually Constitution DAO 2. There was another Sotheby's copy of the Constitution. We had been friends with some of the older Constitution DAO people, and it said like, hey, we have the privacy tech right now. Do you guys want to go for it? This was in November, and this was probably the worst time that it could have happened. FTX had just blown up. And we asked Sotheby's, hey, can you move the auction back? This is a terrible time. And they promptly told us no. So we said, all right, I guess we'll go for it. So we went for it, and Sotheby's actually needed an audit view to confirm that no funds were coming from illicit places because they could not actually track the private donations as well. So we also had to give them access to audit view that they could check all the deposits that came in. So in total, there was about $500K raised across the multiple fundraisers that we did at the end of the year with this private-public setup, and only 15% came in private donations. So does that mean anyone wants privacy? Is it only 15% of people that want to like privately contribute to a DAO and DAO fundraise? What about all the other use cases? And let's just look at total L2 volume and see. I mean, if you look here, Aztec Connect is 2 orders of magnitude lower in volume or TVL than some of the optimistic rollup counterparts. So does that mean we'll own nothing and we'll all be happy? Does that mean we'll just never have any financial privacy and that everyone will always know our bank accounts and all the assets? I don't think so. I think there's a couple issues holding us back, and this is what I wanted to really harp on with this clickbaity title, and then go through the actual lessons that we learned that are still holding back privacy from being adopted. It's really early, really exciting, but there's some things that aren't just tech. It's actually regulatory concerns. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with Tornado Cash, but just to actually show how that impacted the fundraises. So we had to work with Sotheby's, and we had to work with Wintermute, and we had to work with Chainalysis. And all 3 of them were like, how the hell does Aztec differ from Tornado Cash? We had to have hours of calls with every single one of those parties. None of them had ideas on how to effectively use it, how to track any of the addresses and make sure that they weren't blacklisted or like nefarious in their eyes. All just to give a DAO simple account balance level privacy. It was weeks of work. It was quite ridiculous. So there are regulatory concerns from all the counterparties involved, including even the DAOs, like all the DAO people signing their names on actual legal documents because this DAO is doing something in the real world were worried. They were like, hey, are we going to get flagged for being in this protocol because OFAC got a bunch of people flagged? Are we going to get our address blacklisted so that we can't move any of the funds out as the DAO, and then we get potential members that are like super pissed that our funds are locked up? All of those are valid concerns and things that we have to mitigate and things that we just are going to have to work through and educate. Which brings us to user education. This was probably the most shocking one that I was like, holy crap, yeah, there's everyone in the world markets privacy, but it's all different things, including Vitalik. So Vitalik has proposed stealth addresses as a mode of potential privacy. In our use case, we actually had to have conversations with Juicebox as we were designing our co-design with them around why you couldn't use stealth addresses in this use case, because Sotheby's had to have an audit view of all the different donations that came in as they did, and just as you work with parties like Wintermute and need to do some of these confidential, like, it just doesn't work. It is something that a lot of people will advertise as being a privacy solution, but privacy is a spectrum. So then you have things like Tornado Cash, and people just assume everything with privacy is a mixer and that all your funds are being washed and mixed, and no one is educated on the nuances there. Then you have things like secret network, just broadly saying more privacy and limitless possibilities, but it is a trusted execution environment-based privacy layer, fundamentally different than a zero-knowledge proof-based privacy layer. Different trade-offs and different amount of flexibility on what you can do and performance and just time in the market. ZKP Privacy is new. Then you have kind of the leading cryptographers in the field writing white papers around how to build a private DAO on Ethereum, which again is a different approach that you could potentially do, but once you meet the real world with groups like Sotheby's, with groups like Wintermute, with groups like Chainalysis, these proposed solutions may not work in practice, and then it leads to a lot of arguments on different privacy designs. Last but not least, Aztec. So, question to the crowd, I would love for you to try to explain to your nearest neighbor the differences between these 5 approaches, because God, I don't think there's many more than 5 people that could do that, even in the privacy space. So, additionally, there's technical work. This is some things that we learned as we were opening up the donations to individuals for the DAO, is that if the state wasn't synced on the contribution fundraise, then by the time it hit Aztec's rollup, it would just kind of get stuck in the rollup because the proof may not be at the right point in the network whenever you actually created the proof locally and sent it up. It wasn't synced. So it would get stuck. And then it was like, how do I get my funds back? Because I got no notification that the proof was invalid. The rollup thought it was valid. It just didn't know what to do with it, so it just kept it on the rollup provider. And how do we troubleshoot that? How do we even find that? We couldn't. We just got slammed on customer support in literal Chinese. I was sitting on Google Translate with a bunch of people trying to figure out, all right, well, what's your issue? And then they say all these things, and I have to translate and then figure out it's the same thing. But that wasn't the only problem. Mid-fundraise, we also realized, you see there's this loading Nucleo, this may take a few minutes type of thing. We were automatically trying to sync with the entire world state of Aztec and download every single block, and that may not have been needed. We could have just tried to sync with the latest block. So these are adjustments we can make live on the fly, but it's only technical work that you learn as you put it into production. Additionally, just on the multi-sig side, the user experience around loading state in the same way and kind of seeing what you can optimize there, making that pleasant, stopping customer support there, because even the limited number of groups that we let try it out in our little closed beta, we're all having these issues. So, in summary, our mission is, no, sorry, our mission isn't to make you own nothing and you'll be happy. Our mission is to foster the next generation of opportunity, and we think that privacy on blockchains is essential to do that, so that you're not always able to see every single person's real-world assets. You won't own nothing and be happy. You can privately own stuff. You won't be targeted for it, and you'll be able to do things. That being said, we're starting with DAOs and orgs right now. We're still messing around in the privacy world, just trying to improve the technical work, educate. And so we have another fundraise live. Constitution DAO 2 has renamed to Unum DAO. If you guys go there, you can go to the fundraise website right now and contribute. We are over in a booth by the DAO area, and we have a lending library. If you come and show us that you contributed, then you can get a free book. There's a lot of fun books. There's Central Banking 101, Concise History of Common Law. They're very exciting. Please test it out. See how privacy feels. But I'll leave off. There's a ton left to build. Private entities, private voting, private games, just even making it usable. It's an exciting time to be here. It's going to take a bit, but we're going to get there. And if you're trying to make privacy multiplayer, feel free to scan that, reach out. If you want to just jam and build stuff, jam and see what's up. I put my Calendly on there, and I'll probably regret it. But that's all I got.